What is up, guys? Welcome to Huddle the Hardwood, your home for Michigan State basketball in this big game against the Cheaters today. My name is Jacob.
And my name is Holden. Today we are playing Michigan. Big game today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Right now, Michigan is sitting at a 9.5 point favorite, minus 480 odds, while Michigan State is obviously the plus 9.5 underdog with plus 360. I don't know about you, but I have already placed a little sprinkle on Michigan State money line. I was able to get them at plus 385, so it moved down a little bit since that I placed it. But Michigan State, a 10-point underdog, which I think is a lot of points for this game. So if nothing else, I'd encourage you to hit that spread and hit the plus points for Michigan
Yeah.
State. But
It it all depends on how we come out, because if we play like we've been playing the last 5 games, then absolutely. But if we come out like we did the last time we played Michigan, which started our slump, because we were playing pretty good all the way up until that Michigan game, and that Michigan game we came out slow, and I don't know what happened, and that started the whole slump. So hopefully we don't revert back to that and we come into it aggressive. And I think this game's a little different because last time we played them, there was a lot of pressure coming into that game. We were both first in the Big Ten, and this game's a little different. There's not as much pressure. It's just the normal rivalry game. So hopefully we come out a little different.
yeah,
But with that
so
being, oh,
I
sorry.
sorry, I just had a couple things to touch on too, just for add a little bit of context, like you were getting into. Like it doesn't really like it's not like one of those games where one of the teams can clinch the Big Ten or anything like that. Obviously, Michigan's already got that wrapped up. It's really just comes down to, like you said, the rivalry, hoping to not get swept. It's still a competitive game, regardless. It's still a top 10 matchup again. I think this is like the third time out of the last four that it's been a top 10 matchup between these teams in the last 2 years. So regardless of Michigan being a really good team this year, I'm just glad that the rivalry is kind of back to where we're used to it being, where it's consistently top teams going at it versus it being one-sided. So,
Mhm.
with it, nonetheless, it's good that it's going to be competitive game in game out. But other things that context-wise coming into this game. This game could very well decide who is the Big Ten Player of the Year, whether that be Jeremy Fears or Yaxel Lenenborg. Yaxel Lenenborg probably is the favorite just by default right now, just because he's the best player on the best team. But Jeremy Fears certainly has a massive argument for it because if you take a player like Yaxel Lenenborg off of Michigan, yes, I still think they're a good team. Yes, I think you're going to notice the difference with him being off the team, but I think they'd still be a good team and a tournament team without Yaxel Lenenborg, just with the talent and the depth that they have. But if you take Jeremy Fears off this team, Michigan State's nothing. They're not a tournament team, no chance, like at all. So, and just the historic season that Jeremy Fears has had, I think he's well deserving of this award. So, if Jeremy Fears has a big night and they beat Michigan, I think he has a really good chance of winning the award tonight. And then the last couple things on here I want to touch on. Yes, it might not really mean much in the grand scheme of things, but this game, if we do get it, we do have a slim chance still of getting a number one seed in the March Madness tournament. UConn did lose yesterday. As of now, we're recording this. They actually lost the Big East because of that game. They lost, and St. John's ended up winning the Big East. So I'd be surprised if UConn slid back into that one seed if they didn't even win their own conference in the Big East, which is not even really considered a Power Four conference. Maybe in basketball it is, but anyways, we're necessarily right now. If we win this game and we do something good in the Big Ten tournament, we're basically just rooting for Florida maybe to drop one game early in their conference tournament. We might have a chance at that last one seed. So
Yeah.
this game still has some pretty big implications, and then we also have a chance to ruin Michigan's senior night and the night that because after this game they're raising their Big Ten championship banner. So we have a chance to make that a less exciting night, and we can ruin their night. As in, they only have one senior. I guess the Axel's technically senior graduating, but they have one senior that's been there all 4 years. Will Cheddar is his last home game today, so we have a chance to ruin that for him as well as their banner night. And then just the last thing, um, recently they did lose their backup point guard LJ Kaysen, who is really playing really well down the stretch. And he was when Elliot Cadeau was struggling, he would come in and play really good off the bench for him. He turned into a really good scorer But he tore his ACL and he is now out for the season. So they don't really have much of a backup point guard right now. So you might see a little bit more of Roddy Gale, but I'm not really too worried about that. So yeah, that'll go in more into my keys to victory later on, but those are just some context things to add before we get into everything else.
So, getting into things, the Cheaters of Ann Arbor are 28-2 overall. They have an 18-1 Big Ten record, and like Holden said, they finished first overall. Um, So in their last five games, they've won four of their last five. Their most recent one is against Iowa, where they barely beat them 71-68. Iowa was up pretty much like the entire game, and Michigan got lucky at the end. Yaxel and Morez Johnson both led the way with 16 points apiece. And then they have a win at Illinois. They won 84-70. Morez Johnson and Mara both led the way with 19 apiece. They have a win against Minnesota. They won 77-67. That also was a pretty bad game for them. So two of the last three games, they had a pretty rough game because Minnesota was close with them the entire time, and they were at the Silent Library. So Elliot Cadeau led the way with 15 points, and LJ Kaysen had 14 points. And then they had a loss to Duke, a big game for them. They choked it and they lost 68-63, shot terribly that game. Yaxel led the way with 21 points. Morez Johnson had 13 points. And then they had a win at Purdue. I didn't write their score down for whatever reason, but
I believe
Elliot
that was
Cadeau,
81-70 or something
yeah,
like
it
that.
wasn't much of a game. That Purdue made a late comeback. Didn't matter. But Elliot Cadeau led the way with 17 points, and then they had three people tie for second with Yaxel, Kaysen, and McKinney both had 13, or all three had 13 apiece. Last time we played them, they beat us 83-71. Yaxel led the way with 26 points, where 13 of those points came from the free throw line. He shot 13 from 15 from the free throw line. Elliot Cadeau had 17, Merez had 12, Trey McKinney had 10. They had 36 rebounds as a team and shot 8 for 21 from the three-point line. Going our way, we had 10 players play and only six of them scored. And the majority of the points came from only five players. Jeremy led the way with 31. Jax added 12. Cohen had 10. Carson had six. Jordan Scott also had 10. And then Jesse had two. We also had 36 rebounds and we shot the ball absolutely terribly. We shot 4 for 23 from the three-point line. And then one little thing I want to say. Uh, it was an interesting little stat that I saw. We've only been out rebounded once all year in Big Ten play. I thought that was a pretty crazy stat. And even against Michigan, who has a pretty big front court, we tied with the rebound battle. But we just got to shoot the ball better, man. 4 for 23 is unacceptable. So, anyways, with that being said, Holden, I know we already touched on some of the players, but what are some of your key players and key matchups for the game?
Yeah, real quick, were you referring to the Chrysler Arena as a silent library?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. You said that. It took me a minute to process. That was great.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, key players and key matchups. I have four of Michigan's starters on here. Um, First one I have down is Elliot Cadeau, their starting point guard, transfer from North Carolina. Um, if you recall, in the last time that we played them, he had a pretty good game. A lot of his good scoring and his like big plays came towards the end of that game when we were making our late comeback after being down by a lot. We kind of cut it close, and then Cadeau hit some big threes and big shots to kind of pull it back ahead for Michigan, and he kind of closed out that game and kind of outplayed Fears towards the end of that game. Um, so when it comes to him, I do have Jeremy Fears guarding him again. They've actually played each other a lot in high school, so they've played each other a lot already. They've played each other twice, once at North Carolina, once at Michigan. This is the third time playing in college, but they played each other a lot in AU and high school ball. So I think they know each other pretty well. Those two are going to be guarding each other most of the game, I would have to assume. Um, and then, yeah, Cadeau, sorry, I forgot to touch on just stuff with Cadeau. He's a very, very much improved three-point shooter. When you saw him at North Carolina, he a lot of the times got the Russell Westbrook treatment where you just kind of sagged off him and let him shoot, and he wasn't much of a threat out there. But this year, he is very, very much so a threat. He's improved his shot a lot. I think he's shooting, if not 40%, just below it. He's shooting. I'm pretty sure he's their best percentage 3-point shooter on the season this year. So he is a threat. It's not someone we can go under screens on. We always need to have a hand up no matter where he's at. So we need Jeremy Fears locked in for that matchup. And then on the flip side, just while we're still talking about Jeremy Fears, what I have learned, because I haven't watched a whole ton of Michigan games, but from what I've been hearing from a lot of people over the last couple of weeks, Yaxel, for large portions of the game, apparently has been taking it upon himself to guard like the team's best player, and normally that is the point guards. So apparently he spent a lot of time picking up like Braden Smith full court, Keaton Wagler full court, Donovan Dent full court, like just playing all those top guards. So it's been showing a lot recently that Yaxel is very versatile when it comes to guarding all the different positions, and he's been guarding point guards, like picking him up full court. So you might see, because with the game that Jeremy Fears had last game, he was majority part of our offense. You might see Yaxel picking him up full court. So that might be an interesting little matchup to go later on in this game. Something to watch out for. And then when it comes to Yaxel, he is a very sized as a three because they start those like three bigs at the same time. But Yaxel does play the three, 6'9" at the three. I do have Cohen guarding him. Cohen's got a little less size, but I think the length and the just pure athleticism will match up well against Yaxel. He can probably move pretty well with him. Yaxel, like you said, you touched on earlier, he had a really good game last time we played him. I can't remember exactly if Cone was the one guarding him, but I would assume so. It's been, over a month since we last played him, so it's kind of not fresh in my mind. Um, but yeah, other than that, I got when it comes to Merez Johnson, I think that he's this team's X factor. He doesn't get as much praise as he should. He's arguably up there with Yaxel for the best player on this team. I think he's honestly more consistent than
I
Yaxel.
would say he's the glue of the team, man. Like,
Yeah.
because
Um,
Cadeau, like you were saying, Cadeau and Yaxel get all the praise, and they're the ones that have all the eyes on them. But without Merez, like their team breaks apart, in my opinion. But
so yeah, the matchup for this one's a little weird because I'll get into Mara in here in a second. With Mara, you can't really have Coop on anyone else. So I have Mraz matched up with Jackson Kohler when it comes to starting. But when you have someone like Cam in, I think Cam is really suited to guard someone like Morez Johnson. I think they're very similar size and very similar play style. Neither of them are much of shooters. They're not going to step out on the perimeter, but they're the ones that are like physical in the paint, rebounding, post ups, and all that kind of stuff. So Jackson will guard him probably to start the game just out of necessity and what our starting lineups look like. But I think you will see Cam Ward on him a lot just because they match up pretty well. And then lastly, when it comes to 7'3" center, Adane Mara, who have Coop on him again. I think Coop did struggle against him last time. I think he had a couple quick fouls. He was out of the game early. And I remember just Mara in that first half was like Michigan's like main source of offense. They were
well,
just
Mara had two fouls really early. He had
yeah,
two
because
fouls
Spears
at
was
like
baiting them.
16
Yeah, but they
minutes.
kept him in the game though.
Yeah, well, they took him out temporarily and then they put him back in, which was surprising. But yeah, Carson was definitely getting a little bullied in the paint, so we're gonna have to
Yeah,
figure out some
because
dates.
like surprisingly, yeah, they were just like they were feeding Mara over and over. We didn't really have an answer for it to start the game. So we definitely that's something we got to key into on this game. I know it's not like when you come into a game, a day Mara is not like someone that you're looking to, game plan as their best player. And we need to do all to stop him, but he's really what, contributed to them getting out to such a big lead in the first game. So there's got to be some general adjustments there, but
Yeah.
that's what I have for key matchups. So do you have anything else you want to touch on when
Yeah,
it
I mean,
comes to
I think we see a lot of Cam today, especially in the past couple games. Cam's been getting a lot of minutes, so don't be surprised if Cam plays close to 20 minutes today. And as long as he stays out of foul trouble, though, because he's been really aggressive, and I've touched on in the last video, really love his aggressiveness. But in this game, I think he could be a great matchup for Merez Johnson, especially with how physical he's been. But he's got to stay out of foul trouble. Um, And then I would like to see Cohen on Yaxel for majority of the game. I also wouldn't mind seeing Jordan for a couple possessions. I just want to see how that would work, but I do
Shares more
think
mental.
Jordan is a little too small. I think Yaxel would bully him
Yeah.
in
When
pain
it,
and take advantage of that matchup. But I wouldn't hate to see it for like a possession or two to see how the matchup would fit and then switching back to Cohen. But other than that, I like our other matchups. I just I'll get into the keys of victory because yeah. Anyways, but with that being said, going into stats, Michigan um averages their 3-point attempts per game, they shoot 25.5. They make about nine of them a game. They average 40.6 rebounds per game. This is crazy right here. They average 88.4 points per game. Pretty high. And they only give up 68.7 points per game. And their defense ranks second in the nation, only behind
crazy. So on average, they're winning by 20 every single night. So
pretty much, yeah. And they're second in the nation. I guess it depends on what website you look at on who's first and who's second, because Duke's ahead of them. The second rank that I got, I was looking at the Ken Palm defensive ratings. So, anyways, what are your keys to victory?
yeah, one big one that I have on, excuse me, one big one that I have on here is to exploit Elliot Cadeau. I
Mhm.
touched on it a little bit earlier that they are missing their backup point guard and their X factor that comes in off the bench because when it comes to their starting lineup, other than like their starting two with Namari Burnett and stuff like that, when it comes to their strictly their starting lineup, a lot of times when they're struggling, it really comes down to how Cadeau is playing because sometimes he's hot and he's shooting well and he's playing well, moving the ball well. But there's been a lot of games this year where he's just in his own head and he is turning the ball over like crazy. He can sometimes turn into a turnover machine. So whether that comes to, Jeremy Fears getting into his head, making him turn the ball over, being aggressive, getting in his head, or, you know, getting him in foul trouble. If you like, I don't want, like I said, um, I don't ever condone his foul baiting, which he's been so much better at recently. If he just plays natural basketball and get drawing fouls that way. Like he's been going downhill, getting to his spots, shooting those pull-ups, stuff like that. So I think if we're either exploiting Cadeau, whether it be, forcing him to turn the ball over and take bad shots or just getting in straight foul trouble, I think Michigan's going to struggle down the stretch because they don't have Kaysen to go to because Kaysen, like I said, in the back half of the season has been their guy to, bring in off the bench when Cadeau's struggling and he'll provide scoring and just kind of stability at that position. So they don't have him anymore. So I'm interested to see what they do with that because I haven't watched them since Kaysen's been out, but I heard that they might, like I said, with Yaxel guarding point guards a lot of time. I heard that he's also been bringing the ball up and running the offense. It just shows his, his kind of versatility in that way. Or I wouldn't be surprised if you see somebody like, which I didn't touch on in the key players, which I think he's a key player. He's not necessarily a starter, but he'll play starter minutes, and he had a good game against us last time. But McDonald's All-American freshman Trey McKenney. He's their shooting guard, really good shooter and shot creator. I don't think, I mean, he's not a natural point guard, but I think if they need to throw him in there, he will. And that's someone that I like for Jordan Scott. I think Jordan Scott would be good on him. But yeah, so I'm interested to see what would happen if we took someone like Elliot Cadeau like out of the game, whether it be fouls or just having them forcing them to play bad. Yeah, what are your thoughts on, kind of that and exploiting Cadeau and, really forcing them to go to their bench for their guard
Yeah,
spot?
no, I completely agree with it. I think we need to deny Yaxel and Merez Johnson the ball all game, be super aggressive. This is one of my keys of victory. I have be aggressive defensively, and I think we need to cut off the passing lanes of both Merez and Yaxel, make Elliot Cadeau beat us, exploit his weaknesses, and he's not the type of player that can take over a game and win that game all by himself. He can go off for 20, of course, and get his buckets, but force him to beat us. And especially if we're pressing Elliott like the whole game and he's getting tired, like they don't have a backup point guard anymore to go to their bench. And it's like I don't know. I completely agree with what you had to say, and I think we need to be aggressive
It's like if you
defensively.
think about it too, I mean, I'm just now more thinking about this. Like we need to exploit Cadeau because they don't have a backup point guard. They can also do the same to us. Like I think our weakness is now their weakness as well. Jeremy Fears goes out with foul trouble. We're screwed and you have to put in Denham Mojic. So I think they have the advantage there because they have, but more depth and of like actual skilled players to, put in and replace him. But it's kind of interesting too. Like we kind of got like the same weakness, coming into this game. Um, Another key I have on here is just rebounding. I remember a lot in the last game. I don't think maybe they didn't finish the game out rebounding us. I just remember a lot of key offensive possessions from Michigan where they, it felt like we finally got a stop and we were trying to come back a little bit and then we finally got a stop and then they just kept getting offensive rebounds and getting second chance opportunities.
Yeah.
So we cannot allow that this game. I know they have a lot of size, but we're one of the best rebounding teams in the country. We need to act like it this game, and we need to get back on track. We need to get a body on their three bigs, and we need
Oh,
to protect the defensive glass this game.
they had 11 offensive rebounds last time we played them. And like you said, it always felt like it was in the biggest moments when it happened. Um,
Mhm.
but crazy, uh, Michigan State had 15 offensive rebounds that game, which it did not
That's
feel
just
like.
so like yeah, this
It did
yeah,
not
that
feel
feels
like
like a
that.
misleading stat because
Yeah,
yeah,
but
like you said, it was all in the big spots where it felt like Michigan got the
yeah,
offensive rebounds.
because we would finally tie the game if, and then they'd miss a shot but get an offensive rebound, and it was like, yeah, they just happened to get it during the worst times. Yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, I agree.
and then we need something from the two guard spot this game. I think that'll be our X factor. Um, I know that I think you said that Jordan Scott had 10 points the last time we played, but
Came off the
we're
bench.
gonna need a little bit more than Jordan Scott showing up. He didn't We need Jordan Scott to show up for sure, 100%.
We
But
need
I think we need someone off the bench again. Like we need to, if we can get another game from Kerr where he's hitting 3 to 4 threes, I think that'll be massive for us in this game. We just whether that be from the two guard spot or Cam Ward off the bench. I think I'll just lump it into that. I think either the two guard spot or just whether that be Kerr or Cam off the bench. Someone off the bench needs to provide that extra spark, and we can't just put all the pressure on the starters to provide all the offense again. So
yeah.
somebody off the bench, whether that be Kerr or Cam Ward or just the two guard spot in general stepping up. Because I remember in that game specifically when we still had Divine, he dropped like a whopping zero. I
Yeah.
know I know Jordan came off the bench had 10. I don't know how much Kerr had, but it felt like that spot we got like nothing from. So
Was that the game Divine got hurt? No, it was Minnesota he got hurt. Yeah, Divine only played 12 minutes
oh,
against But yeah, I completely agree with you. I had that in my notes as well. I said the X factor for the game today, if we're gonna win, is Tang. He's got to hit his shots, and I mean, look against Purdue, like he hit no,
out
that was
Indiana he
Indiana.
did.
He
He still
had
had a good
three
game against Purdue.
he had three
Back
threes
to back.
against Purdue, and he had 13 points, I believe, total. But if we're gonna win this game, it's not gonna come down to any of our starters. It's gonna come down to Kurt Tang if he can hit a shot. He only attempted one shot last game against Michigan, so he is absolutely the X factor for this game today. And we need to be able to not only create shots for him, but he's got to hit those shots. So
A lot of pressure for Mr. Orange String. It
yeah,
has nothing to do with any of the starters. It's all on Kurt Tang.
I mean, yeah, because if our starters just do what they normally do, and like that's not going to be enough against a deep Michigan team. So we're gonna have to, Kurt Tang's gonna have to be the one that brings in that X factor. So
Yeah, and then two kind of final things on here I have for my keys. I need a big or a strong game out of the front court. Last time we played them, our front court with Carson and Jax were largely outplayed by Michigan's
mhm.
front court. And like we were already talking about, a lot of the scoring and the offense just came from straight Jeremy Fears. It felt like it was Jeremy Fears versus the world that game. So Jackson and Coop need to keep up how they've been playing in their strong play, and they need to, provide some, help for Jeremy Fears this game. I need to see them at least score both in double digits and, help on the glass because I know it's going to be hard. Michigan is a very, they're probably like the tallest team in the country, honestly, when it comes to their starters. So it's going to be a tough job, but they need to lock in. They need to lock in for this last chance to play Michigan in their 10 years at Michigan State. We might play them, on the Big Ten tournament, but this is their last chance to, play at Chrysler, beat them in the regular season. So they need to be locked in for this game.
Yep. Agreed. I already touched a little bit on some of the stuff I had. The other few things I had, discipline. We have to be disciplined with our hands. We've been fouling a lot as of recently. Last time we played them, we fouled 23 times and they got 26 free throws out of it. We just gotta be disciplined with our hands and disciplined with our body language and our mouths because this is
Body
going to
language
be,
is huge, especially in a game like
yeah,
especially in a game like this. Body language is huge, and
yeah.
also just how the last game went with all the Jeremy Fears drama and stuff like that. So like Jeremy Fears in specific needs to dial back his, body language, and he just needs to focus on strictly basketball.
Because we're not anything without him. He's our heartbeat, and he's got to be really disciplined. It's going to be a high emotional game. Like obviously, we're the rivalry's already there, but for two, they're doing what we did to them last year. They're hanging up a banner in front of our face, and it's it's tough to watch. So there's going to be a lot of emotion on top of that. It's Michigan's senior night, and we want to ruin their senior night. So we got to be disciplined in all shapes and forms. And yeah, we got to also be aggressive offensively, driving downhill. Last time we played, it was a lot of standing around the perimeter and Jeremy dribbling. And we got to drive downhill to, for one, try to get, I don't like foul baiting at all, but try to get natural fouls.
Put pressure on him. Put
Yeah.
pressure on him to
But
try and make a play.
because then they're going to have to change their defense, and that opens up the three-point shot for us and it opens up different avenues. So we got to be aggressive offensively, like we have been the past couple games. And yeah, and then that goes into don't play timid. The classics that my last two things are what I say every game. Don't play timid, come out with energy. We've been coming out with energy the past three games, but this game in particular.
Especially this game. We were down
Yeah, we
16 in the fourth.
have to. And last time we played them, we came out flat and it was terrible. They got off to an early lead and we were just playing catch up all game. So yeah, come out physical and play with energy. And then, like I already touched on a little bit, move on offense. We gotta, if Jeremy's just dribbling up top and he doesn't have any way to drive downhill, go set a screen and not necessarily on the ball, set off ball screens, move around on the perimeter, do a lot of cutting and move the ball around. Don't stand still and create for yourself.
That's when it comes into Kerr too with the ball movement. You're talking about Kerr. He does really good off those pin down curl
He
around
does.
screens. So we can get Kerr going like that too. So I do
He
agree with that.
does. Yeah, that's all I really have for the game, so we can go into our predictions. So Holden, you can go first.
Yeah. So like we stated at the beginning of the game, Michigan is opening up as a 9.5 point favorite. I think that's a little bit of big of a spread for a rivalry game. Um, so I did mention that I did place a Michigan State money line bet earlier today. So we are going to stick with that. I'm hoping and praying, and I think that Michigan State's going to hold Michigan from getting the sweep. So I do have this game being rather close. However, I do have Michigan State winning. However, I do feel like if Michigan were to win, I feel like it's going to be by double digits. I don't think that um, Michigan State's necessarily capable of beating this Michigan team by like 10, 15, 20 points, something like that, like they are capable of doing to us. So I think if Michigan State wins this game, it is going to be a close and tight one. But with that being said, I do have Michigan State winning 76-72. So I have them winning by a little, like about 4 points.
Interesting. So I think if Michigan State is going to win this game, it's going to have to be in a high scoring battle because they have a really good defense. They're averaging close to 90 points a game. They scored 83 on us last time. And I think in order to win this game, usually I always say low scoring games, Michigan State wins majority of the time, but in this instance, I think they have so much offensive firepower that we're gonna have to try to match it. With that being said, I have our Michigan State Spartans at 83 and the Cheaters of Ann Arbor at 82. I think we win in a
Oh,
very
wow.
close
That's
matchup.
stressful.
I think we win by 1 point, and I completely agree with you. I don't think we win this game by double digits or in a dominant fashion. I think if we're gonna win, it's gonna be a close battle to the end. Um, but yeah, so that will do it for us today. Go green.
Go white. Let's get this dub and beat the
Yes,
scum. Come
sir.
on. Let's go.